Hi, everybody.
Can everyone hear Camille and I? Okay. You can either put it in the chat box or just say something briefly.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Camilo Perez. I'm the Pesticide Control Officer for the Cochan Indian Tribe. As you guys can see, our tribe is also known as the Fort Yuma Indian Reservation. The reservation right now has over 45,000 acres. We're located at the southeast corner of Imperial County, California. And also we border with the Colorado River, where it turns into South Baja California, Mexico. The tribe has authority over lands between Arizona, California, the city of Yuma, Arizona, and also the city is just across south from the Colorado River. Um, due to the COVID whatnot, the numbers changed, but our tribal membership as December 2017, it was 3,920 community members, 2,141 members living among our community. Now, the Pesticide Enforcement and Control Office, who we are, what we do. The Pesticide Enforcement and Control Office, I'm sorry, how do I minimize the pictures? There you go. Ensures compliance by conducting and announced marketplace and maintenance yard inspections. The Pesticide Office program also monitors pesticide applications conducted by commercial, structural, agricultural pesticide applicators. That is during the day and also during the night. These routine inspections and application monitoring are performed to ensure that pesticides are being utilized correctly, safely, according to the label for direction of use, as well as in accordance with the tribal pesticide ordinance. My program also assists and provides technical assistance to other tribal pesticide programs within the US EPA Region 9. For instance, with the CDX website, I had the opportunity to help my fellow colleague, Jeremy Phillips from the Indian South River community. Also the Pesticide Enforcement and Control Office, I monitor and serve 2,141 tribal members living among the tribal land. And right now, that number that is on the slideshow, it has slightly changed. It almost close to 10,000 acres that I monitor. Um, Currently for FY20 and FY21, we have a total of 13 growers currently leasing land among the Indian country. All of those growers, well, they're located in Yuma, Arizona. For education and outreach, that's one of my major elements. That's one of my major components. Um, the type of education and outreach that I perform, it's annually, also monthly, on pesticide safety, read the label first, IPM, at, at our educational complex, daycares, in order to help them out understand reduction of pesticides usage and safer alternatives. And of course, let's not forget about our WPS prevention, heat stress, and basic first aid education, and the outreach that I conduct. I do it through the community, council meetings, community events, or schools, and also elders, children. Of course, right now due to the pandemic, it has been quite a challenge, but it's still not impossible to reach out to our community members. Worker protection standards. My program established, established the worker protection standard. For a while there was no one, no one in the office, so I had to build everything from the floor. The main component of the WPS for me is conducting the WPS training on pesticide safety, worker protection standards, first aid, heat stress. The WPS training is conducted with field farm workers, private applicators, commercial applicators, labor contractors, travel employees. For the farmers, usually it's through tailgate meetings. As I'm driving among the community, I stop to check on them, make sure that they have the proper PPE to get the work done. Um, Here, there's a pesticide application, a chemigation from one of our farmers, Gila Valley Farms. As you guys see, the gentleman mixing the pesticide, which it was a curve. He's wearing his PPE at the moment. He had soap, he had single-use towels, he had all the PPE necessary to conduct that work. So during this time of the year, this is the kind of work that it's been done around. So I have to be on top of it, making sure that they're doing the job accordingly to the label, accordingly to our or pesticide ordinance. Then here, for worker protection standards, we get work crews from Arizona that come in and do cleanup on the produce. They remove sprinklers. They do all kinds of work. So as I'm driving around, I'm making sure that if 11 or more workers, they have the WPS poster, that everything is in place, that they have the amount of water that they must have per or worker protection standards, that they have everything they need overall, just to ensure that they're protected and that they're gonna get the work done as well on a safely manner. And here, you know, there's a restrictive use pesticide, Asana. Um, every time there's a 1080, which is the notification that I get via email through the commercial applicators or my private applicators, which are the farmers. I go and monitor the applications. I check that they're registered with EPA Region 9, that they're certified to apply the RUPs, and that they know what they're doing, that they have the proper PPE, that misuse it's not gonna take place, that there's not gonna be drift. So part of this challenge it's to ensure that I'm working with the farmers, I'm working with the commercial applicators, ground applicators, and aerial applicators. And since our community is surrounded by Ackland, it is I can say that I have to be that I'm on top of it. I'm monitoring everything, making sure that the helicopters are not flying on top of the houses, that they're not gonna be mixing near or drinking water sources. So all those details that I watch, but um, I have come to the point that the relationship that I have built with the farmers and with the applicators, it's pretty good. So they always call me to let me know what's going on, or if I notice something, I talk to them. So there's that communication, and I think that makes my job a lot much easier. And without being said, does anyone has questions, comments?
Okay. Well, if no one has any questions or comments for Camilo, Camilo, thank you for the presentation. That was very informative. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to just kind of include them in the chat room. But just to kind of get introduced, my name is Peter Early. I am a project officer in EPA Region 9 for the pesticide section. Joining us today, I know she's not a presenter, but my supervisor, Patty Tenbrook, she's the manager of the pesticide section. She's here to kind of monitor the session as well. But thank you everyone for joining the tribal feedback session. I know it's a pretty important time and a really strange time given kind of the state of the world and also the coronavirus pandemic having a serious effect on various tribal communities and programs. And so we wanted to kind of use this as a conduit of information and also kind of a Q&A session just to kind of solicit some feedback from some of our tribal grantees and other tribes that have programs that have been kind of struggling to mitigate some of the issues going on with the coronavirus and other issues. And so really want to kind of make this kind of an open forum type discussion. And so we do kind of want to open it up to other tribal programs and also managers and employees, just so EPA can have a better understanding of some of the issues and complications that tribal grantee programs have been going through. And so with that, you know, I kind of want to make this an open discussion. And so have there, you know, if anyone has any like serious issues they'd like to relay to EPA, please feel free to include them. And so, yeah, with that, is there anyone that's that has any serious issues or things they'd like to relay to EPA? I think to kind of help this session, I know I received a few ideas of interest and things that we can talk about, especially if some of their tribal grantee programs are going through the same issues. But one of the tribes asked about the mixing of jurisdictions between state agencies and tribal agencies, and also the discussion about like what protocols are in place to protect workers and staff when there is that mix of tribal agencies and state agencies that have jurisdictions over various different things. So I don't know if any other tribes have been going through similar issues like that, but it'd be interesting to talk about that and sort that out.
Hey, Peter, I do, this is Patty. Hello, everyone. I do see a question in the chat here from Eugenia Quintana. She's asking if there's a limit on the number of individuals from a tribe or state that can receive federal inspector credentials. And I guess the easy answer to that is no, as long as people take all the trainings and keep that all up to date and apply for the credential and can be granted it. The thing is that there's, you know, it's an investment of time on your part and our part. And so sometimes there may or may not be a need in the FIFRA world. We don't have very many tribal folks with federal credentials, so just a handful really, but, and it can be super helpful. But if you don't have like a pesticide producing establishment on your tribal land, it just may not absolutely be a necessary thing in the FIFRA world. So it's something to talk over with your project officer, and kind of case by case will help you figure out if it's worth your time and effort to have one, and whether it's helpful to us for you to have one. So there are no, technically no limits, but there are some limitations just kind of based on other factors.
Thank you, Patty. Are there any other questions or other issues that tribal programs have been struggling with during the coronavirus pandemic, or at least mitigating some of the effects of it in regards to their programs?
Yeah, this is Jeremy from Salt River.
Hi, Jeremy.
So with the COVID-19 happening and all that, how does that affect like the funding for next year? I mean, is it going to be the same, or, you know, down the line, are we looking at some cuts, or, you know, is there going to be money there for discretionary funding? You know, I was just kind of wondering about that.
This is Patty. At this moment, I don't see any changes in funding, either due to any kind of cut. I haven't heard anything about any cuts that might be coming. I haven't heard, and I don't think, I think it'll be a lot of conversation with your project officers about how you might use funds if there's, for some reason, you're still not able to do some of the usual inspections that you do. I'm seeing comments coming up in the chat about offsite inspections, what's offsite compliance monitoring activities. So for example, in some cases, people are doing basically virtual inspections, which is, you'd probably want to be talking again with your project officer about what that can look like, or with our enforcement folks here in Region 9. But also it's fairly common for people, especially, I think it might have been Dan or Tony, maybe you guys can talk about this a little more. You regularly do offsite compliance monitoring for applicators, for example. And all those kind of inspections should be able to count towards inspection totals. So you may not be able to get out and do some kinds of inspections, but you might be able to do some other kinds. The other thing I'd like to see programs do while they're have a little downtime from inspections, if they do, is make sure all your programmatic documentation is in order. You probably have been bugged by your project officer to have your quality assurance program plan in place. If you need to update any codes or update your enforcement response policy, any of that kind of documentation that goes with your program, this would be kind of a good time to work on some of that, I would think. Dan or Tony, do you want to say anything about some of the offsite inspection stuff you guys do?
Sure. Good morning, Patty. Tony, I'll lead off if that's okay. We actually can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We actually just had a discussion about this recently, and I know during pre-fire egg this was brought up as to whether or not offsite inspections, or whether or not remote inspections would be counted. And based off of that letter that I referenced, it does appear that they will be counted. And as you mentioned, Patty, Gila River has been doing offsite inspections, but we do it in the past, but it's been for our certified applicator records inspection, where we can send a notice of inspection, what equates essentially to a demand letter, requesting those representative sample of records to do that. I guess what we're currently wondering is whether or not any tribes or even any other jurisdiction has found a way to conduct use inspections, and what does that look like, and what portion of that would even constitute a use inspection, being as, of course, we know use inspections are primarily based upon observations made by the inspector, the primary witness. So that's kind of questionable to us as, moving forward, as this is drawing out longer and longer, as to whether or not what that'll look like. And then on the other side of that, if the tribe determines that that risk is too great, or we find ourselves not able to even complete that work, are we at risk of losing funding under those circumstances? And that kind of tied in a little bit to Jeremy's question as well, I think.
Give a moment in case any other tribes want to weigh in on that. Again, Dan, you're asking some questions that I think it would be really helpful for us to take down and then get set up to talk more specifically with our enforcement folks about that, and whether you really are finding that you just can't get out and do any. And I agree, the use inspections have not been the ones people are doing offsite. People have done kind of hybrid for like doing producing establishment inspections. They'll do the interviews ahead of time, and afterwards offsite, go in quickly, do their inspection, and then go back, you know, so kind of minimizing the interaction. But I tend to agree with you. It'd be very difficult to do a, you know, full-blown worker ag use inspection, and you know, it'd be a challenge, and I'm not an enforcement person, I'm not an inspector, and I'd rather that we have that conversation with our ECAD folks, our enforcement folks, but very specifically, we can set up a meeting with tribes that want to hear more about that and discuss that a little more. As the manager of the group that provides the grant funding, I will always work to find ways to continue your funding. And no, I am not seeing that we're going to like immediately be minimizing your funding. We do have to find appropriate things for you to spend the funding on if you can't get out and do inspections, but it doesn't automatically mean your funding's going to get cut. I mean, that's my position. I will fight to not let that happen, but I'm not necessarily the final arbiter of that. So please do keep bringing this up, and we do need to talk about it more, because everybody who's got a grant of any kind, pesticides or otherwise, is facing all sorts of challenges getting their work done. And I really hope we aren't going down a road where suddenly we're not giving anybody any funding and the programs die because we had a pandemic. You know, I hope we can find more creative ways to work through that. That's me talking. That is not officially EPA policy. That's just my position, is I want to work with all of you to figure out how to get through this without big damage to your programs.
Hi, this is Tony McCandless from Gila River. I'm just curious, when we have that talk with the enforcement team from the region there, it might be good if they could also weigh in, or if maybe you or Peter kind of know what they've been doing as far as meeting their inspection priorities on their own team, how they're going about that currently, or if they are conducting field inspections right now.
Yes, that's completely fair and appropriate. Our Region 9 folks have not been doing a lot of field. I don't know. In fact, our FIFRA folks, I don't think, have been going out in the field at all. They've done a whole lot of work doing, and again, you know, we are not primarily responsible for use inspections for states, and if tribes ask us, we would need to come out and help with that. But a lot of our staff time has been consumed with imports, you know, trying to do enforcement work on pesticide imports coming in, especially with all the disinfectants that are out there, as well as web sales of disinfectant products, and that's been pretty consuming of our time. And so we're certainly filling some of our obligations through off-site sorts of activities, and not on the ground inspection. So totally fair to ask to have that conversation and understand what the region's doing.
Okay.
Thank you, Patty.
And so, Peter, you're making a note. We'll set up a call maybe for invite whatever Region 9 tribes might want to join
Yes.
to discuss this whole offsite inspection question with our ECAP. Thanks.
Are there any other issues that other tribes would like to bring up?
Hello?
Hello?
It's Jeremy again with Salt River.
Go ahead.
Just what I heard from, you know, people, you know, talking to me at our talk and everything. I just wanted to know why, you know, why is it difficult, like or why is there a long process for smaller tribal communities to obtain credentials, you know, when maybe they don't have a detailed pesticide code or ordinance in place. And sometimes, you know, using credentials, you know, if they had credentials, it'd be a lot easier for them to conduct their, you know, their use inspections, misuse, or records review, or you know, WPS review of their, of records from farmers that are off the reservation. A couple of tribes have brought that to my attention, and I just wonder, like, how come, some people have it, and then some people that it seems like they really need it, but when they go through the process, then it's up to their project officer to say yes or no, or what's the process?
Hey, Jeremy, that's I appreciate that question. We don't have our credential coordinator on, but the federal credential has a very specific purpose, which is for non-federal people to do inspections on behalf of the federal agency. So if a tribe doesn't have any kind of pesticide program, there's just no need for them to have a federal credential. We can talk about this more. You can talk about it more with Julie Jordan and again, kind of in our ECAD group, and OECA has their rules about who and ideas about who should and shouldn't have credentials. The thing is that whether you actually have a credential or not, all the training that would go into having a credential is available. So that certainly can help inspectors to learn how to do all those things, even if they don't actually finally get a credential. It is a question of, the credential is I'm thinking in Region 9 right now. Again, I said there's only a handful, and I believe, for example, Navajo has had a credentialed inspection over time, and they'll often do an inspection that then they can refer to us for enforcement. So it really is a conversation that you would need to have with our credential folks in the enforcement division. And if you can make a case that you really, really need one, maybe perhaps they'll work with you to get one, but it is not an automatic thing.
Well, maybe, like when you do have a Region 9 conference call with, Indian tribes, down the line, maybe that's something that you can bring up to the tribes. Again, it's just something that was kind of brought up to me since I'm an RTOC representative. And, I just wanted to ask you guys that question. I know at Salt River, we kind of just, we rely a lot on our zoning, our business license, and our pesticide code to do our enforcement. So, we kind of, keep everything in-house. So, that's how our community is run. But again, I guess other tribes were in a checkerboarded area where, they have state tribal land, in their community. And a lot of times, maybe when they try to go and talk to that farmer, maybe that farmer says, well, we don't have to give you that information because you're on state land, go call the state inspector. And then maybe if they do call that state inspector, maybe, they get no results from that state person. So,
that's another, I think you raised enough points that we should have this call with our Region 9 tribes at some point. Another meeting. Maybe we need to do a little more regular meetings with our tribal groups. But even if a tribal inspector had a federal credential, you would not have authority to go inspect on a state land. So that all those sorts of things we should be talking about and being super clear about what the federal credential allows you to do and not.
Yeah, I understand that, but maybe maybe if you guys had a call on the TPPC meeting or something like that, maybe those tribes that are asking me those questions, they can turn around and they can say, well, Patty, this is our situation. What can we do?
Yep.
Because a lot of times farmers will, they'll be really outspoken. They don't like tribes regulating them. And, sometimes, in the past, go ahead.
If they're on state land and the tribal inspector truly does not have authority to do anything, you certainly can get a hold of us and let us help with getting the state to come out and do something. That is, we do have a role in oversight to make sure the state's doing their pesticide use enforcement appropriately. And if there's an issue going on that they need to look at, then we can help prod them to do that.
Okay, yeah, and again, there's just a big process when you do that, because then you're gonna have to enter into a MOU with the state, and is that something that your tribal government wants to do, or there's a lot of other issues that are involved. There's sovereignty issues, so I don't know if tribes are having some of those kind of issues. Are there people like Peter or you guys that could come out and help the tribe, because you guys are federal, and again,
we can't just go out and do anything on the state land either without working through the state, because they have primacy for pesticide use enforcement. So I totally want to be talking about this and figure out where you're still having issues that we need to help with, but it's not quite as simple as either a credentialed tribal inspector or a credentialed federal inspector just going out and starting to do some enforcement on state land. It's just not quite that simple.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Jeremy, for the question. So I received actually a question from Nina regarding public health and whether they're doing, if any of the state public health agencies are doing contact tracing, if there's any consistency in the safety measures for some of the workers. I don't know if any other tribes have received any feedback or guidance from their state public health agencies in regards to this, but I don't know if there's anyone on the call that'd like to chime in on that specific topic. But if not, I can save it for later and try to see if we can find somebody that can kind of give some more feedback or at least kind of work out that issue. But that was, seems like a pretty complicated but interesting issue to kind of work through. But are there any other?
I might add to that, and that's quite a bit more in the public health realm. So we're not going to really have pesticide related answers to that, but I mean, it's still important. We're still interested in kind of hearing how your farm workers are doing with regard to keeping safe from the pandemic.
I see that Eugenia Quintana said that in regards to the pandemic, they've increased their sanitation supplies for staff and maintain increased PPE standards. So that's good. Glad to see that you guys are using guidelines and appropriate guidelines to protect your staff. So really happy to hear that.
You know what, Peter, I would like to add to what Jeremy Phillips said. It would be good if we could have a meeting, because what he brought up, it's almost what's happening to me. All my ackland, it's in California, just a little bit in Arizona, but all my farmers are located in Arizona. So for me, sometimes to get records, they play hard to get. So I think having a call and talk more about this, it would be great.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Camilo. Yeah, that's good to know. That's something we certainly could plan for and take into account and talk with our ECAD team, kind of bring these issues to light, because I mean, these are issues for me personally that I've kind of been hearing for the first time. And I know Jeremy, we spoke early in the week. He had kind of brought some of these issues during our end of year discussion, but I think it's good that our enforcement team is more in tune with some of the specific issues that some of our tribal programs and other tribes have been going through. And so, yeah, this could be a great follow-up discussion with our enforcement team. But with that, are there any other concerns or issues that tribes have been experiencing?
Peter, it's Jeremy again.
Hi.
With people, you know, with applicators, like the pesticide applicators, the farmers, with this pandemic happening and all that, you know, and, you know, their license getting ready to expire in December, you know, is there any, like our states, you know, our state's going to give those applicators maybe, you know, a couple of months past that when their, you know, their date's going to expire to get their CU credits, or, you know, what they need to get done to renew their license? You know, because a lot of times with, you know, with the pandemic happening, maybe it's hard. It's a lot harder for, you know, for farmers to, you know, get their continuing education credits. So I was just wondering if, like, if the states were gonna like give them an extra 2 months to get everything they need to get done so they can renew for next year.
Hey, this is Patty. I'm wishing Katie had joined us. There is some guidance out from the Office of Pesticide Programs about how states can deal with that very issue. And in fact, I think Arizona, for example, they've extended, they have extended expiration dates like to December 31st. That was the last I heard. It might be old information, but there are absolutely a few ways that they can extend certifications. And meanwhile, states are ramping up their online classes and testing capabilities so that hopefully they can find a way to keep working around it. I would, this would be one where we need to have Katie fill you in more precisely. I'm not as good with the details on that, but it's definitely something that's been happening and we are issuing federal certifications for certified applicators in Indian country under the federal plan, as long as their state, again, as long as their underlying state certifications are valid. So we are managing to keep certified applicators certified under certain conditions and circumstances, but and there is official guidance out on that.
And Jeremy, I can speak with Katie regarding your question, and so I'll try to provide more thorough feedback from her. But thank you, Patty, for the information and clarity. Okay. Are there any other last minute questions or concerns, issues that anyone wants to raise to EPA? So I've taken notes with regards to some of the enforcement questions. And so hopefully we can try to plan for more thorough discussion with our enforcement team regarding some of the questions that a lot of you raised. But yeah, if no one else has anything, thank you everyone for joining the call and the meeting. And feel free to reach out to me. I'll make sure to post my email in here just in case nobody has it. So feel free to reach out. And then thank you, Camilo, for the great presentation you put on this morning. That was really great.
My pleasure. It was on such a short notice, but I did what I could. Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate it. And it was very informative. So thank you.
You're welcome, Patty.
Thank you
You're
everyone
welcome.
for your questions. I look forward to some conversations to help sort through all this stuff.
Yeah, I just posted the email. So yeah, reach out to me, and yeah, hope you guys are all staying safe out there. All right, everybody. Have a good one.